When we talk about freedom of religion, the constitution in Malaysia guarantees that all persons will have a right to profess and practice his or her faith. Now, if restrictions and conditions were to be imposed, what it means is that our profession and practice now will be subject to those restrictions and conditions. What it means in practical terms is that our freedom of religion now is no longer free, it is no longer absolute, it is subject to religious bureaucracy, it is subject to the dictates of religious institution. Now, that is something that no democratic society would want to have. Historically, as we look at the trends over the last 25 or 30 years, we are beginning to see that there is a systematic or perhaps a progression to reduce our rights. We are beginning to see that because of the push of Islam, the Christian community and other non-Muslim communities are beginning to be pushed to a corner. It started way back in 1981, where our former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, banned the Bahasa Indonesian Bible, the Alkitab, under what we call the Internal Security Act as a document that is prejudicial to the national security of Malaysia. However, in 1986, the government issued a policy paper that says that the use of the word 4 words from the Quran is banned. The word Allah is actually one of those words. So right after the 1986 policy paper that was introduced by the government, there was a series of legislation that was introduced by 9 other states from 1987 all the way to 1993, which actually banned the use of the word Allah in 10 different states throughout the country of Malaysia. And throughout this whole 10 years, how the church have always resolved the conflict was the church would always approach the government officials, speak to them in the background, and come up with what we call an amicable settlement. But beginning of 2005, that approach of going to the government officials to seek for an amicable settlement began to break down. And because of that breakdown in the approach, the church was left with a very little room to resolve the matter. Negotiations have broken down primarily because the Home Affairs Ministry and the Home Affairs Ministry was pressured by what is called the Islamic departments within the Prime Minister's department, the Muslim NGOs. These all collectively put the pressure on the government, and so negotiations wasn't getting anywhere. The Herald was allowed to print their Bahasa Malaysia version with the condition that they do not use the word Allah. The SIB Sabah, which is a denomination in the state of Sabah, imported something like a few cartons of Sunday school materials from Indonesia. Those materials came through our the airport, one of our local airports here, and the Home Affairs Ministry and the Custom impounded those materials. A year after that or so, Jill Island, a Sarawatian Christian, went to Indonesia, and she came through one of our local airport en route on transit to Kuching. She was detained, and she had 7 CDs with her, and those 7 CDs was impounded because it contains the use of word Allah. Catholic Church went through a series of negotiations for a couple of years. Now, one after negotiation that failed, and eventually, when the negotiation failed because one excuse and one reason another was given to them, and yet it did not resolve, the only available option left to the Catholic Church was to sue the government, because on the grounds that that condition which was imposed by the Home Affairs Minister upon their publication license was just unfair, unreasonable. Because it is unreasonable for a government to impose a restriction on the use of the word. So the Catholic Church went to court. And so The government's position is that the Catholic Herald case is confined to its own facts on the issue of whether the minister has the powers to impose a condition upon their publication license. And it is here that the Court of Appeal and the Federal Court affirm the position that the ministers have the discretion and the power to impose this condition, and this power and discretion to impose this condition is not questionable by the courts. The Court of Appeal decision has said that the use of the word Allah is not integral and essential to the faith. So, on that basis, it extends across to Christians in Sabah, Sarawak. It extends across the issue of whether the government has the right and the power to impose conditions. It affects every Christian. The first issue is, does the minister have the power and discretion to impose condition upon the Catholic Herald's publication license? At the High Court just said, yes, the Christian community have the right to use the word Allah because it is within their constitutional right of freedom of religion. At the Court of Appeal judges felt that the Christians have no right to use the word Allah simply because they came to the theological conclusion that the use of the word Allah is not essential and integral to the Christian faith. The matter went before the Federal Court. The Federal Court felt that this conclusion by the Court of Appeal, the theological conclusion by the Court of Appeal, that the use of the word Allah is not essential and integral to the faith, it's merely an opinion and not binding in law. When a particular group that is in power or wishes to maintain status quo, they will always rely on the issues of race and religion. Now, the use of the word Allah, as I said, it's a strong lobbying point for the Malay Muslim communities to be able to be united and come together and support a particular government who is seen to champion the rights and interests of Malay Muslim community. They are afraid that the Muslims may eventually be attracted to the Christian faith because there is a bridging point. So from that social relations point of view, it doesn't make good sense for Muslims to be able to be interested in the Christian faith, and eventually some Muslims will say, well, I'm interested in the Christian faith and I want to exercise my right of freedom of religion to leave Islam to embrace any other religion. So that can be a threat as well. The international community must understand the complexity of the situation. They must understand that this is not just about a word, it is about very fundamental liberty, freedom of religion. We also have to understand that there are emotional sentiments. These emotional sentiments are coming from the native Christians from the state of Sabah and Sarawak. These Christians have been using a certain word to call their God for centuries. To just say, well, why can't you all just drop the word for the sake of peace and harmony, is to disregard the emotional sentiments and the sensitivity of these native Christians. The government will not do anything because there is no pressure, there is no external pressures. But if the US or the UK or France or Holland or whatever country begin to talk about it and begin to say, well, this is unreasonable, this is ridiculous. Why is the Malaysian government doing this? What is happening down there? Then the government of Malaysia will feel the pressure that, well, this is something that is a no-no. It is something that is against fundamental human liberties, and it's so unreasonable in modern democratic society that then it will begin, this will spur them to begin to take note, and hopefully, prayerfully, it will also make them to stir the cause and to do what is right and just. But what we are beginning to see is that the Christian church is beginning to say now, no, in spite of the risk, we must do what is right in the sight of the Lord, and trust the Lord that come what may, the Lord will be with us in the circumstances that we face. The situation has come to such an extent that the Malaysian church is now embarking on the 24/7 prayer. Perhaps it's time for the Christian community in worldwide to also engage and to embark on the same project, to stand in solidarity with us.